Ayomide here, and you already know what time it is. We're back for another episode of the World Without People podcast. More voices, more real stories, and even deeper conversations that challenge the way we see the world. This season, we're peeling back even more layers, exploring life, love, purpose, and the beautiful complexities of the human experience. New guests, fresh perspectives, and of course, the same unfiltered, soul stirring energy you love. So, whether you've been rocking with us since day one or you're just joining the adventure, welcome. Grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's keep the conversation going one unforgettable story at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide, and I'm so excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, but drum roll, please. I'm with the one and only Dr. Mrs. Is it Mrs. Doctor? I should know.
Just Dr. Alero Roberts.
Just Dr. Alero Roberts. I love it. AKA my mother-in-law. I also just call her mommy, but just again, in case somebody's like, that's not your mom. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a delight. An absolute delight. And I'm rather excited about what we're going to be talking about.
I feel like you're used to this. You're on camera like every week. Is it every week? Or you used to be?
I used to be.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
okay.
I've been able to drop that down a bit. COVID's past tense, and the rest, the new one hasn't yet appeared. And may it never appear.
Really? You don't want to go back on TV?
No.
Like if you retired, maybe.
No, who wants to see this old face?
First of all, you do not look old. I'm praying to get your hair in the future because
Don't worry, I've left it in my will too.
That's number two. Plus, do you hear like the British accent? I just want to know that the most cultured, originally from Ghana. Well, parents are from Ghana, but you were born here.
Now, if we're talking about genealogy, let's go back to Sierra Leone via Denmark, and then we'll stop in Scotland because my maiden name is Duncan and my grandmother's maiden name was McNeil.
Oh.
So it's a long journey.
I see.
Sailors went far in those days. Sailors went far in those days.
And no, now he explains the light. I mean, I knew. I actually really did not know that. Oh, okay. It means the light skin, the color.
Yes. Okay. There's a lot of it.
Okay. All right. Scotland. Huh. All right. I'm so shocked.
I actually met my great grandfather.
You did?
In Kakubisha.
I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to in the fact that I married your son, that in Jesus' name we'll all be, very, very old, because I've met Jeepa. You are saying you met your great grandfather, and just seeing like the parents having that relationship with the grandkids, grandkids to you, but great grandkids to Jeepa, yes. That kind of thing, and it's so amazing because I don't remember my grandparents. I think I have one still living, and I think they went pretty early. The other three went pretty early, so having
grandparents were a major part of my life.
Honestly, and the same for Demilade. Like he talks about living, in grandma's house, going to Ibadan every weekend, that kind of thing. And I never had that. So I'm really, really jealous of your family's
generation connectedness.
Yes, and it's on both sides.
Yes,
that's the amazing thing about it. So I was telling people that I had a list, and it was one of the things that I had on my list, that I wanted somebody with family, like being able to know like where you came from, so that in case I know I'm going to report.
Yes.
And in all fairness, Demlade's best friend, I think, in this world is his mom. Like, if I'm looking for him, I know who to find. If I need somebody to, I know.
I don't think that should go out on camera.
It's okay. Everybody knows us.
Let's just have a secret weapon.
Exactly. No, but seriously, thank you so much for coming. I have a bunch of questions, but I think I want to start with what we're talking about, which is just connectedness, because you really do have that. Like when we were planning the wedding, everybody guessed twice that was already like we're already at 300 was family. Akinkumi, Duncan. I mean, it was just like that. And not only that, like to the details of the kids. There's like 5 group chats, people. 5. 5 family group chats. Like, it's just so amazing. And how did you guys cultivate that and keep that?
The grace of God.
Amen.
And to be honest with you, it's what I was born into. So that's the absolute real privilege. And I guess over the last 6 decades that I've been alive, it is evident that it requires hard work. There's a lot of grace required, there's a lot of love required, there's a lot of forgiveness required. There's a lot of forgiveness required, and there's a lot of forgiveness required. That's number one. But, being born into a situation where, like you said, my mom being Ghanaian, my father being Ghanaian, born in Nigeria, brought up Nigerian, but with Ghanaian parentage and a lot of Scottish blood in there. So we were always aware of the fact that we were different. We were not called Yoruba. We were not called anything. In Ghana, we were Nigerians. In Nigeria, we were Ghanaians. And it gave us an open mind, so to speak. We then had the added advantage of having Big Mommy, my father's mom, and Granny, my mother's mom, who were very invested in our lives, and spending time with them, they spoilt us absolutely rotten in their different ways. So we've grown up with those memories that going to Big Mommy's house, was rice and butter and combi stew. And going to Granny's house in Tudu was chin-chin and bread pudding made with 12 tins of peak milk. 12 tins.
Back when the economy was all right.
No, the economy was never all right for 12 tins of peak milk.
Really?
No. My mother put 1. My Auntie Cynthia tried, she put 2. Granny, 12 tins of peak milk. That's bread pudding. Nobody has been able to replicate it. So and it brought us, I remember growing up, we had gone to Ghana for a holiday. I was probably about 13, 14. And I was staying in Granny's house because the cousins were just loud, noisy, and getting in my way. And I wanted to go to Granny's house. And Mommy was going to Granny's house. And so we went together. And I was the only child there. And I loved it. And Mommy said, she's going out, she'll be back soon. And she went out. And she didn't get back until about 8:30 in the evening. And Granny went ballistic and told her off in no uncertain terms. What kind of behavior is this? I was in shock. My mother was a married woman with 4 children. And her mother was telling her off like she was a 3-year-old. It stayed with me. And I thought, okay. So when Mommy shouts at me, I now know where it's coming from. And then flip back several decades later, and I'm married with 4 children. And my mother and my parents were staying with me. They were here in the house with me. Their house was being renovated. So they had moved in for about 3 months or so. And one day, I can't even remember what I did. And my mother told me off in no uncertain terms.
In front of
and I saw, in front of my 4 children. And I remember the look on Princess's face, and she was like, she was absolutely shocked. But you see, what it has done, and then I remember it happened to Daddy. He was talking to his mother on the phone. Mobile phone has just come out. And as he's talking on the phone, he's doubling.
I love
Sir, you're on a phone. She can't see you.
Aww. That's
so that's kind of acculturation.
Yeah.
And I realized, obviously it became pretty obvious very quickly that Daddy Bado, my, Bimlade's grandfather in Ibadan, held us with iron fists in silk gloves. His invitation to come to lunch in Ibadan was not an invitation. It was a summons. Very politely put.
Be there.
Be there was non-negotiable. Be there was absolutely non-negotiable. Of course, when we got there, with goats, with snail, with prawns, with beef, with cow leg, and the young pounded, followed by as soon 2 goats will die.
This just sounds very scrumptious. Now I'm hungry.
I know, right? But the be there was non-negotiable.
Yeah.
When my mother-in-law, bless her sweetheart, she will have collected all our invitation cards for a family wedding, and she would make sure the driver has distributed them all. Then she will call to make sure that we're going to wear the right clothes, that we have the right ashoke. We're going to be there on time. The event is going to start at 11. Please be in church for 10:30. It's always good to greet them before the service starts. Very firm, very polite, very soft-spoken, non-negotiable. It was lovely.
So
You knew exactly who you were, where you were, what was expected of you, and the children were brought up that way.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
No, it sounds amazing. Do you think you are as firm, iron fist with silk love, or a lot more softer?
Tough question to answer. If I was half as good as my mother and my mother-in-law, then I'm a huge success.
Yeah.
I don't think I quite got there.
You still have many, many more years to raise us all up. But no, I mean, I think that's just the joy. And so if you wonder why I married Demilade, just I hope you're able to hear. But I think, we've come over, like, Christmas was my first Christmas here. And just the tradition, right? Okay, let's not tell the secrets. But there's just these traditional things that, I didn't grow up with. I mean, everybody has their own tradition. But I mean, like, there's certain traditions that you're just like, oh, I thought this thing was only on TV. Like, when you're seeing romantic movies and things like that.
And I think that's what we lost as a nation.
Yeah.
And probably, a lot of the so-called modern world. When you look in the scriptures and you realize that God had always planned a multi-generational family setup. Parents, grandparents, grandchildren were all brought up in the same place. And you find that the societies that are probably doing better is where family dynamics and family structure has remained in place, which is the difference between, say, the African society and the modern Western world where nobody knows their neighbor.
Yeah.
I recall several times when the children have done something they shouldn't have done, or they've done badly in school. Because every 1st of October, we always gathered for Cousin Bayo's birthday. Now, question, who is Cousin Bayo?
I was gonna say.
He's...
I'm my Cousin Bayo.
His cousin... No, you didn't.
No, okay.
That's Chief Bayo Akinola, Ilemu
Okay.
Bayo Akinola of blessed memory. And his mother and Demilade's grandfather were brother and sister.
Okay.
So yes, he and my husband are cousins. And, there was always this large family gathering every 1st of August to celebrate his birthday. And everything in the family got tabled. School reports included. And it was like, that was the one court of public opinion you did not want to be presented at as a child. But it was that custodialness. You did things or did not do things because of the name you bore.
Right.
You did not want to let the name down. Somebody is going to call you. The number of times Demilade would come up to me and say, "Mommy, I don't know who, but just in case." Somebody walked up to me and said, "You're Ayomide Roberts' son." And he'll be like, how did that happen? And so that level of accountability is absolutely essential to building strong societal processes.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, we didn't have space at the wedding just because of, oh, I know his dad, and I know his dad, and I know his dad, and I'm just like, how do you guys even know? Okay, granted, they're both from Ondo State, but still, I don't think, Okitiukpa and Ondo City is like,
it's
they're not
exactly.
neighbors. So it was so very interesting to know the connectedness in spite of everything.
So let me tell you a story, and this was Ebola. I mean, and everybody marvels at Lagos, the 93-day wonder.
Right.
And I remember that then, who is it in the MSF, or was it the head of CDC, Atlanta, Georgia, who said, oh my goodness, nobody wants to hear Lagos and Ebola in the same sentence. Oh my goodness, we've got a problem. And, when we examine all the stories of Ebola, and trust me, all the stories have not yet been told, it was that informal social networks that was so vital to Nigeria becoming the 93-day wonder, that we were able to quash it. so and so's classmate, so and so's friend, cousin, so and so's looking after so and so's mom, so and so's, the connectedness, that interconnectedness. And it builds a very strong social network that, if we can continue to grow, will hold us in very good stead.
No, I definitely agree. My friend came, we hadn't seen since after the wedding, and she was like, "Who are you? I thought you were just this one small girl." And then at the wedding, I'm like, "You know this, and you know that, and you know that, and you know that." And she was wondering how, I was able to do that. And I said, "Well, I thank God for Facebook, because again, like you said, we've lost that. Plus, I don't, maybe I'm just not that kind of person. I don't remember half the people in primary school. Demlade knows everybody in his primary school, in his secondary school, and in his. I'm like, I mean, weren't those schools big? I don't know. Maybe I was just going through my own stuff and I just wasn't paying attention or whatever. But I think that for me, by the time I moved to the States, Facebook had come, and then it helped us, get in touch with people and all of that. And that social network, I was intentional about it as opposed to being,
taking it for granted.
Taking it for granted, exactly. And so 20 years out of the country, and I still have that connection to the country as much because of that. And I just think that, again, it's amazing what you're saying about the intentionality of it as well, because you have to now and then do the work. You must
be intentional about it.
All right. And was that just question number one? Okay.
It was just question number one.
And I feel like we could go on that topic forever, but you already now and then went to topic number 2, because you've mentioned what was one of our first connections, which is public health. Like, she just talked about the whole Ebola crisis, which I just love the fact that we have a lot of different connections like that. I think we look alike too.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
You're definitely the better looking one.
I'm just trying to be like you. I must have gray hair when I really don't.
Trust me, you're married to my son. You're gonna have gray hair.
That's so funny. Okay, all right. Before we talk about public health, you had mentioned something though about someone recognizing you. It's funny. I went to the hospital yesterday, and I must not have seen this guy. I mean, it's not must. I haven't seen this guy for at least 20 years, and he saw me and he goes, "Okay, Daily," and I was just like, I feel so very like, how can you just know me just by like 20 years should have passed? Like, you should forget the face. But I think what you're saying is still like the point. Like, again, I always think about that value in not ruining a name.
Exactly.
Right? And so I actually want to... Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, or share button. Whether you're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or YouTube, your support helps us to reach more people. Stay tuned for more amazing conversations, and thank you for being a part of our community. Go to that before we talk about public health, because I don't know the amount of people that have said, "Oh, which Roberts?" And I'm just like, "Oh, Dr. J, oh, Dr. Alero, oh, psychology, or pit stop, or whatever." They always have something to say. And I think my question is, how did you consciously or unconsciously train the children to recognize the value in the name?
Consciously. Definitely consciously. Okay. You must remember the son or daughter of who you are, and the fact that it's not... you can't ruin it for everybody. So you can't just do what you like.
You don't think it's pressure?
Huh?
You don't think it's pressure?
Pressure in what sense? There is pressure.
Okay.
But, there's good pressure and there's bad pressure. And I mean, let's face it, enough pressure, coal will become a diamond.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, fair enough.
Were we smacked as children? Yes, we were. And the fear of being smacked made you stay on the straight and narrow. And you did well in school because you did not want to be disgraced in front of your principals and your mother's friends and be hauled up short. So, if the price was doing your homework on time, you did it.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's pressure.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder, how we do this, what do we call it nowadays? Gentle parenting.
No, don't believe in it. I absolutely do not believe in it. No, I don't believe in gentle parenting.
Why?
Because there's nothing gentle about parenting. Every child is born, me included, you included, with that element of naughtiness. And that is just biologically how we are hot-wired. Train up a child the way he should go.
Yeah.
And if you don't train up the child, if you don't train the child, somebody else will train your child. Yeah. And you will not like the consequences. Yeah. I mean, I remember even when we were growing up, my mother and her friends would be sitting down talking, and they'll be looking at the difference between children of French women and children of American women. And the difference was parenting styles. And they grew up in the days of Dr. Seuss and, all that airy-fairy, Freudian, whatever. And the parents, my mom and her friends, were not having it. Not for 1 minute. We were not allowed to read Dr. Seuss books. And no, we were going to read Enid Blyton, and we're going to read books where children were taught that actions have consequences and you will live through them.
Yeah.
So depending on your actions, the consequences can be good and you will have the reward, or the consequences can be not so nice and you will have to go through them. So I remember a couple of occasions where a certain somebody didn't get to go swimming. And you know what? We were all very all right.
It's funny that you say, though, that you'll live through it. So you're not team, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out.
Oh, I definitely am on team, I brought you into this world. Believe you me, I will take you out. Hey, don't try. I recall they were growing up with their cousins, and of course, like you said, loads of cousins. So my cousin-in-law, Auntie Diolu, you met her?
Yes.
You know Auntie Diolu. So she had 4 children, I had 4 children, and we're running a little garment making factory together, and it's May, and it was all very wonderful. And she'd come over, and and we did it because we wanted to be at home with the children, basically. I couldn't practice medicine for young children at that time. I couldn't practice it to the level I wanted to at that time. And it was, for me, I had seen all the women in my life make that so-called sacrifice, but the rewards were far greater. So it wasn't a sacrifice to me.
Right.
It's
not something you regret.
Definitely not, because I knew that the reward would be greater than. Anyway, long story short, she brings the children and she says, well, Alero, are you sure you can manage all 8 children at once? And I said, watch me. So as she arrives in the house with her 4 little ones and my 4 little ones, Demilade, go and bring me the wooden spoon. Gulp. His face fell. What have I done? Oh my goodness. And he goes with great trepidation to bring the wooden spoon. And I'm like, right, line up according to age. And they all line up according to age. My 4 are like, oh no. They don't know what they've done. What are they going to get? And I literally gave each one a whack on their hand. And I said, this is a preemptive strike. You mess up, you get it according to age. Oh, they were so well behaved.
I'm sure.
They were so well behaved. The house is a mess. They are noisy. Food all over the floor. All that's par for the course.
Yeah.
But there was no screaming, no beating, no shouting, no disobedience.
Yeah.
That, for me,
It's peace.
is peace.
Yeah. Dear future children. Like, just here. Because I feel like, and I always tell my mom that I'm going to repeat all these things that you did. Although she says now that with my nephew that she feels like I'm now the softie. But as firstborns, I just feel like we're not naturally softies.
No, we're the family we're the family managers.
Exactly. Oh, another thing that we have in common. We're both firstborns. But not just firstborns, we're both first children.
First children,
Yes.
first daughters.
Yes. So we were having this conversation in one of the group chats about the difference, right? Because I do feel like it's so natural, like, that you are the family manager.
You are the family manager. I mean, who dare say otherwise?
I don't know. I feel like, they say, like, we
And
kind
don't mind those last born associations. Antitos and take notes.
They do. They make you feel like we put it on ourselves. Do you think we put it on ourselves? Like, we take on responsibilities that we're not supposed to take on?
Sorry. Ayomide, have you looked in the mirror lately?
Yes.
You're cocoa butter skin, you're female,
Right.
and you've got white teeth. Did you choose any of that?
No.
Thank you. Case in point.
Okay. All right. So we need to go to the public health part before I forget. Well, actually, no. We're slightly different. You do have a medical degree. I don't have a medical degree. But then on top of that, you have a public health degree, and you've been practicing, for lack of a better term, what now? 40 years in
40
Nigeria.
years.
And as someone who is trying to stay in Nigeria, and part of why is because of that family connection, like you said, by the way, because everybody thinks I'm mad. But, I sometimes think about the fact that, do I want my mom to be looking for me like I need to take a plane? to come and see my mom. Like, I
Exactly.
just feel like that's a lot of stress for me when I think about the fact that my parents are still alive and things like that, right? You only have so much more time with them, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move back. But I don't see public health as a promising endeavor to go into in Nigeria at the moment. If I was to say, what do I want to do? Like, I will forget doing anything outside of Nigeria, and here is the place where, for example, everybody's going into tech.
That's a very good question, and probably a very good observation. And I will ask one thing: what is your definition of success?
Fair enough.
Okay, so yes, I mean, I have a medical degree, and anybody who knows medicine would know that you could be anything from the very top of the line neurosurgeon to the very bottom of the line, which I would say is probably public health,
Yeah.
because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but for me personally, and for a lot of my family, success, we define success differently from a lot of people, in the sense that for me, success isn't many houses, many cars, designer, this, that, and the other. No, all that for me is
Yeah.
totally unimportant. Success for me is being able to sleep with both eyes closed, being able to change any situation I go into for the better, leaving a legacy. For me is a huge success, and I think for since my son was born, since Dabola was born, and being able to get him to where he is today, like we've said over and over and over again, how many families can boast of an Olympian gold medalist? So being able to bring people up to achieve their full potential, for me, is a huge definition of success. And again, I had the privilege of being the granddaughter and the daughter of teachers. So knowing that my grandmother, my granny in Ghana, was blessed by students, people whom she had taught, people whom she had helped along the way, and those rewards come back, they all come and look for her. My mother, the same thing. So I knew that teaching, you don't get paid an awful lot, it's true. But the reward is not in the money you get at the end of the month. Believe you me, the price of onions, I'll take that money away. Sharpish. But being able to walk into a place and say, Dr. Roberts, oh, Mrs. Duncan, oh, Mrs. Buckle, and that love, those rewards are intangible. And that for me, so I always ask people, what do you define as success? What does success mean to you? And how do you intend to achieve it? What is the step you're going to put in place to get there?
No, that was an excellent answer, and you make a good point, because at the end of the day, I feel like coming to Nigeria alone
was,
I think it's a definition of, okay,
that was your success.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like you said, how much more time do you have with your parents?
Right.
And do you want your mother to be looking for you? I mean, look at what has happened with your nephew now.
Yeah.
Would you have been dealing with this over the phone, feeling so out of touch, suddenly wondering, what am I doing here and who am I doing it for, when the people who really will benefit from my being around are so far away?
Yeah. But I think that's the problem with Nigeria, though, because, again, when we don't have a place where young people can thrive economically, financially, even, I mean, and I'm not saying you have to be Dangote or Tedola, but enough to, take care of yourself, we now have this separation of families. The problem I'm having is just the idea that we have a very long road or long battle ahead of us. And so what do we do about that? How do we, especially young people, have the desire and the motivation to keep that fight? Like, to say that, okay, the fight that, some of our parents, continued with or took, the challenge that they took, we are also willing to do that. Because, again, if I'm more comfortable where there's no lights, where there's no issues with lights, there's no issue with, water and things like that, why won't I take that opportunity?
Now, you're asking these things, and I feel that one of the issues that we get into, and thankfully having lived quite a few lifetimes.
Yeah.
So, having lived several decades and several lifetimes within those decades, I think it definitely has come to my realization that we tend to see things only within the time frame of our lifetime, forgetting that these things have always been.
Right.
I mean, the issue of migration and people moving from one to another
Right.
started right from the very beginning when God called Abraham out of the land of land of the Chaldees, and said, "Go to a place that I will show you." And successive generations, for some reason or another, have had reason to migrate over time. And usually it's always economically based. I mean, we all remember the story of Naomi, how she followed her husband into Moab, lost husband, 2 sons, yada, yada, yada. So one of the things that I always tell young people, I said, you're not the first, you won't be the last. I graduated 40 years ago this year. 2/3 of my classmates are out of the country. And a third are here. That was 40 years ago. So, this whole thing about people relocating it's always been. That's number one. Number two, like I, always say, is that define your parameters of success.
Right.
What constitutes success to you?
Yeah.
Because nobody can really define that for you. You've got to define that for yourself. So if you can, I mean, there are people who sit here and they'll say, all the problems that we see and all the challenges that we see, for them are opportunities for growth.
Yes, I agreed.
Others will say, oh my word, oh, this is so difficult, oh my goodness, I need to be where there's light.
Right.
Till you get to where there's light, and then you put on the switch, and you yourself, you will put it off because you cannot pay the bills.
Yeah.
So, and in the next generation, it's going to happen again. Okay. And there's going to be movement that way, and then there's going to be movement this way.
Yeah. But maybe one other, thing I'm worried about is, I don't think back then, though, we were losing education. I feel like the bigger part of what is the issue now is that we're losing educators,
True.
so particularly in the healthcare field, like in public health, and in other, just general education, academics, that kind of thing. And isn't that a big problem? And you were saying the other day about losing history.
Yes, we've lost history.
Yes.
And the fact, anybody who doesn't know their history is doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
That's number one. I think that's one of my personal pain points, because ever since I can remember, and I do remember way back to I was age 5, 6, 7, 8, they kept saying the north of Nigeria was educationally underserved, educationally deprived, educationally deficient, and yada, yada, yada. And here we are, 6 decades later, saying the same thing. That for me is a crisis.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a leadership crisis, because every opportunity that anybody could have had has been given.
Yeah.
And some people have chosen. But now, of course, in my old age again, I've grown to understand that for certain cultures, Nigerian cultures, it is needful for it to be like that. For a sector of the population to not be educated. But again, you see, there's something else. With the advent of technology and the explosion of knowledge in the last 20, 30 years, you can't keep anybody down anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
You can't keep anybody down. And yes, we've lost educators, but thankfully we've transited from in-person education to virtual learning. So,
we love it.
Yeah, I do love it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, a fun question now. What are you looking forward to in the future?
Eternity. Absolutely looking forward to eternity.
So not going to Ondo?
No.
Why?
Because I will go to Ondo.
Fair enough.
I will go to Ondo. That's a given. I will go to Ondo. I will go to where all my grandchildren are, wherever they may be, and it'll be a visit, and I'll come back, and there's always going to be travel in my life. That's a given. If I intend to remain relevant in the lives of my children and grandchildren and God willing great grandchildren, what I am really looking forward to is not a Caribbean cruise, although if you throw that in,
70th birthday party, maybe.
Definitely no party. No, I'm
No,
not.
I mean like 70th birthday trip.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, a visit to Hawaii, you know, to be considered. But the thing I'm really looking forward to is eternity.
I'm okay with that, even though it's also scary, because I feel like I've been intentional about if anything can happen. Like you're not guaranteed life. Like I did it to Temilade the other day. He's we're chatting on the plane and the plane was moving funny and I'm like, just in case, I love you. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, because we never know. But I also feel like there's a part of me that will be like, oh God, you didn't give me kids in this lifetime. Like you didn't, those kind of things. So like eternity is still like far. And I feel like you still have like 40 years.
Of course. For your decade of life.
Right.
Eternity is very
But even
far.
for you, your dad is 93. So that means you still have
Can I tell you a deep, dark secret?
What?
I do not want to get to 93.
Really?
No.
You don't want to get to 93
No.
in bad health.
Definitely not in bad health.
Exactly. So 93
But why
in good
do I
health.
want to put up with another 30-something years of this?
In good health? Really?
Please, what is remaining to be done?
You haven't seen our kids.
True.
Okay.
True.
And then, be there to marry them off?
No.
Wow! Okay.
Nobody asked grandparents to dance.
That's not true.
Nobody asked grandparents to dance. Grandparents are in the way.
No, I think it's just if you have cool grandparents. I saw this thing the other day on Instagram where the granddad is like, there's this thing that they do now. We have to do it with you actually. It's the voice. I don't know, but everybody's in around. Anyways, it's the voice challenge where somebody says something, says their name or says, I think the thing was like, hello granddad, and then you have to say who the name of the person is.
Oh, and he could name all. I saw that.
And
he could name all his grandchildren.
He had really nice names for them. Is that my lovely Tolu? Is that my beautiful Toy? Like he had just this.
True.
I feel like his relationship.
That was yes. When you do build those intentional, interconnected relationships,
Right.
yes, I think that is important.
Right.
And again, we're circling back to that again.
Yes.
The importance of being relevant, the importance of being connected, the importance of having those relationships with each and everyone separate from, not just a duty call. It's a real relationship.
Exactly.
Like my grandson, oh, did I tell you that story?
Mm-mm.
So his dad made a tray of tea and had the little thing of milk on the tea tray and had helped himself to his milk and was enjoying his tea. And my grandson comes up and says, Daddy, can I drink the milk? Of course, the father says, no. That happens in your Gma's house. Can I go to Gma's house?
Exactly, so.
That was it. Then can I go to Gma's house?
I'll just go to where I can get it.
Come on.
That. I love that so much.
So that's important.
Yeah.
I know with my grandparents, with my grandmas, it was amazing. The things we definitely were not really allowed to do at home, Oh my goodness. We had a blast.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we were talking about how you have all these titles. Doctor, mom, grandmom. We forgot to mention wife to the very lovely Dr. Sherry Roberts. Harvard trained. I want you to know that my father-in-law is Harvard trained because that's what David does. I was teasing him. I'm like, okay, sure. Neurologist. And yes, I forgot this part earlier that you are a cyclist.
Oh, yes.
And this was, we're marking, 1 year, because I remember meeting Demilade last year and he was, sad that you were,
you had an accident.
You'd had an accident, right? And this was even right before our trip. So it was like he wasn't maybe going to come into the trip and everything. And the other day, you've just come back from South Africa.
Cape Town, that's right, the Cape Town cycling
for a cycling tour, and then you're back on the streets of Lagos.
Yes.
I want to know how. What got you into this? Tell me the whole story.
An accident.
An accident?
Yes, in 2009, I had a car accident and suffered a fracture of my right ankle. And, obviously that was quite devastating. And I was actually in a cast for almost a year because the first surgery to fix it didn't take,
Right.
just the nature of the game, and ended up in a cast for. So the recovery period was elongated. Obviously, walking was a bit of a challenge, and they said, "Oh, cycling and swimming."
But 2009.
2009, a
Means you-
long time ago.
But it also means that you were not in your 20s, your 30s, your...
No. How old was I? I was 15.
I don't know, ma.
I can't do math. I was 49. I was 49.
49.
I
Wow.
was 49. That's right.
That's amazing.
I was 49.
So wait, you're telling me that there's hope for me because
Oh, absolutely.
So this might no exercising now.
Oh,
you can
no,
start
no,
14.
you can start in another
But
10
you knew
years.
how to cycle.
Oh, all children know how to swim and
That's
cycle.
not true. Like, I mean, I learned as an adult, pretty much.
Fine, but you can get on a bike.
Yes. Now I
That's
can,
fine.
but it wasn't. I'm just saying, not all children. So.
Every child. I mean, all children know how to play.
But I think your family is just generally physically active.
Very.
Every single person, everybody
Literally.
swims,
Everybody swims, cycles,
Roller skates,
skateboards,
yeah.
rollerblades,
yeah.
plays tennis, squash. What else do we do? Basketball, plenty of basketball. Yeah. We're all, because we know our family medical history is fraught with pitfalls. Those who don't have hypertension have diabetes. So we know that's going to happen. That is happening, and it's not a curse. They didn't come and meet us from the village. It just is. And the one way you can mitigate against the risks and the pitfalls and whatnot is a good diet, a great diet, and physical activity. So yes,
amazing.
we must we remain physically active. And when, swimming, African women, our hair, that sort of thing. So cycling was like, I remember cycling. Oh, yes, I could cycle.
Yeah.
And that's how we started, my sister and I, Auntie Regia and I.
So where's your favorite place that you've been to so far?
Oh, Cape Town, for sure.
Oh.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Cape Town is amazing.
And where do you want to go next?
Cape Town?
Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Okay.
There are some very challengingly sexy hills in Rwanda.
I love it. She says sexy heels. I think of all the... I mean, I love travel and I love the nature part of travel, but I'm definitely not trying to exercise in my travel. So
It's not exercise. It's cycling. The most fun you can have with your clothes on.
All right. Okay. So I think we've talked a little bit about like the I guess you said it's not necessarily the caretaker role, but one of the things I was talking about with someone the other day, and this just popped up in my head actually, was the idea that she felt like her she didn't want to be a burden to her kids when she got older. Do you think about it? Like, is it?
It's my every waking thought.
Really?
Oh yes, and when I fractured my pelvis a year ago, it was brought home to me very, very stark how quickly one can be a burden on one's loved ones. So you have the injury, it's a broken bone, so you're looking at 6 weeks of recovery. That's just it, like 9 months of pregnancy, 6 weeks of bone recovery. And being immobilized those first 2 weeks, having to be helped to do everything, meant that somebody had to be at home with me. Which meant that person couldn't do anything else. It was, I really did think about it, and I thought, nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be a burden on others, on my loved ones. Certainly, I'm not going to be that person. They're going to be running up and down the stairs for fetch this, fetch that. No, I wasn't going to do that. And that galvanized my, how do I put it, my commitment to getting back on my feet and remaining healthy and physically active and obeying all the laws and all the doctor's orders. And I'm probably the best doctor patient you've ever met.
That is amazing because
I'm absolutely no. It is imperative. It's imperative. The doctor says do this, yes sir. Do that, no sir. Yes sir, no sir. 3, but that's me. So it's paid off.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you can see. I'm
Yeah.
back on the saddle. I'm cycling Cape Town, 109 kilometers, up Chapman's Peak, up Swikabosea. Those are major. You know, I'm swimming again. I can go fetch the kids. I
Yeah.
can look after them for 2 days by myself.
Yeah.
It's important. It's vitally, vitally important as we add years that we don't add ill health. And we've got to be intentional about that.
I love that. But you know, when it's funny because I feel like she was trying to say you're not old, but I'm like, I think there's an Owen when we are kids and like you have to take care of us, like you know, have all of that. We're not a burden, but it is burdening. Like you know, when
it's different when you are right. There's a subtle shift. So, you know, like you quite rightly pointed out earlier on, I'm looking after my father.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't see it. I haven't quite been able to make the shift between him being my parent and now me being his caregiver.
Right.
You know, he's still my parent.
Yeah.
I still see him in the role of daddy.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, then and now, Alero, can I have a glass of water?
Yeah.
I get up and get him a glass of water. I would have done it then. I did it when he was 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I'm doing it when he's 90.
Yeah.
Get him a glass of water, get him a glass of water.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that role. And depending on one's perspective, and it's important to have perspective.
Right.
He's lived a very active life.
Yeah.
And he's been a golfer, he's been a swimmer, he's been, you know. So he has become 92, 93 years old. He's obviously frail, but he's not a burden.
Right.
I mean, when the grandchildren, for him, his great-grandchildren come
Yeah.
around, they're using him to play hide and seek. You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's loving it.
Yeah.
You know, when Mofe comes round and the boys come round and they're discussing their films and scenes and whatnot, he's loving the camaraderie, the
Yeah.
company, the noise.
Yeah.
He's loving it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the perspective being that then he had the shelter and we took shelter.
Yeah.
And now we have the shelter and he's taking shelter. But it's still his house. If he didn't provide then, he wouldn't be enjoying it now.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a wonderful perspective. Okay, let me ask this another way as far as the future then. Last and final question. What are you looking forward to with, or as a wife, as a mum, and as a grandmom?
Very difficult question. Because again, my Christianity comes to play here.
Right.
And I know that for as long as I'm alive, I'm going to face challenges. I'm going to face challenges. And the question is, I think, yes. And so I would say grace and favor to be able to overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know what the challenges are. And God and I have an ongoing conversation about that. There's certain things that I'm like, okay, God, you know what? I don't do very well with that.
I love that. Honestly, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way because I'm like, God, there are some things that I cannot deal with.
Exactly.
Don't let it fool you. You look like a... No, I cannot actively
deal with this.
No, okay, seriously, I like that you do the same thing. Because I'm really serious. Like, I actually tell God that. I'm like, don't let the fact that I've been resilient or I overcame that challenge that you gave me make you think that
no.
I can.
But you see, the comfort, I'll tell you what the comfort is.
Okay.
We're all hot-wired, created by God uniquely to deal with certain things.
Right.
So I remember when we were growing up, we had these two neighbors, Gwyneth and Gareth, Welsh kids, and they lived down the road from us there.
Twins?
No,
I like
brother
the
and
name.
sister. They're Welsh. What do you think? Gwyneth and Gareth. And Gareth grew up to be a lion keeper in Malawi.
Interesting.
I googled him the other day and he's on Facebook and we connected. And I'm like, of all the animals in the world you can look after, it's lion.
Right.
He's hot-wired that way.
Yeah.
Will I go and live in Malawi in the game reserve and look after lions?
No.
No. But he probably won't want to deal with pee and poo and everything, that we have to deal with on the wards. And I'm fine with that. I can do that. I can wake up at 2 a.m. I have no problem waking up at 2 a.m. to deal with the patient. That's...
I have a problem. This is why I go to medical school.
Thank you. And so does Auntie Rita. So.
Okay. All right. I will leave you with that. That's fair. But God, please, hear our prayers.
Amen, amen, and amen.
Please hear our prayers. Give us only the grace to handle what we can handle. That's amazing. Well, everybody, there you go. If you didn't know her, because like I said, most of you might know her, but you know her from the public health perspective. Now you know her a little bit more from the personal perspective. Thank you, Mommy.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you. God bless you.
Gosh, you brought out things that I didn't even remember.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is the World Without People.